Today we're talking about how to fix skinny fat without spending hours in the gym and without doing crazy amounts of cardio. You might have the motivation to fix it, but how do we do it in the most efficient way? The reason why being skinny fat is so difficult because you're in this weird place of not being skinny and not being fat. Slim fit clothing look weird because your arms are like sticks, but you have this belly that's coming out. I was so self-conscious of this last time, tugging my shirt all the time to not let the belly pop out. Skinny people have this clear direction of just simply bulking up to gain weight. Fat people have this clear direction of just losing weight to lose the fat. So what do skinny fat people need to do? When I first started out, I was also skinny fat myself. I lost weight and ended up being too skinny, and then I tried to bulk up and I ended up getting too fat. Then I had to cut down again. It took way longer than necessary for me to finally achieve my lean aesthetic physique. But I found a faster way that needs less than 4 hours in the gym. And so today I want to share exactly how you can fix skinny fat so you can get your lean aesthetic physique and walk around with confidence. By the way, I'm Michael. I've been training for nearly 10 years now, and this is the thing I like to think, do, and learn about every single day. Alright, let's dive in. Strategies change bodies, but identity keeps them. I was bullied a lot when I was younger, and I found it really difficult to just stand up for myself. The other kids would take and run away with my money, but I wouldn't really do anything about it. They would draw all over my arm with these markers, and I just laughed it off, but inside, I was really affected. We were just kids back then. That's how I always like to say it. I didn't have a strong sense of self and identity, which really contributed to my lack of confidence in pursuing fitness. One of my closest friends was Jack, and he had abs when he was literally born. He pulled up his shirt when he was 2 years old, and he was literally like, what was this? Wow. In contrast, all I had was a flappy belly. That really contributed to my mindset of you had to be born fit. So I just boxed myself in that narrative. It was only when I started believing in myself more and shifted my mindset towards it is possible to achieve anything that I really create lasting changes in how I look. And it all really begins with acknowledging the pain that you're facing and wanting to stop that pain. Your self-image drives your behavior. If you think that you're not good enough, you will just give up in anything that you do. You will always just box yourself in that narrative. So how do we break out of that? You need to spend time with yourself to change your identity. And this can be done through a 3-step process I like to call awareness, action, and actualization. Awareness can be built through self-reflection. This can be through journaling, or you can just record voice notes into your phone. That's a really simple way. When you document your thoughts, you're aware of them and you're acknowledging them. You're digging deeper into them to understand the root pain that is going on in your head. And acknowledging is always the first step towards change. An example of someone who is struggling to lose weight might actually deep down be a people pleaser. He wants to feel belong to people, he wants the approval of people, and that is why he would hang out with so many people that he doesn't necessarily care about too much or too close to, and in doing so he would go out and have drinks with them, eat a lot, and just follow what everybody is eating, which sometimes is just not healthy. And he ends up eating too many calories and then gain weight. All because he wants to feel belonged to people. The second thing is action. We need to take action to give us this concrete evidence of change. This helps to instill a stronger sense of belief that you are not your thoughts, simply because it is evident by the actions you do. If you always think that you're a lazy person, but you're doing things that prove you're not a lazy person, such as waking up early, doing the things that you said you would do, and doing the things that are difficult to you, but you still do it. That just shows that you're not a lazy person. Your thought of you being a lazy person eventually starts to disappear as you do more actions that prove you're not a lazy person. And the third thing is actualization. After performing so many consistent actions, it is clear that you're not the same person anymore. You're not the person that's not good enough, you've become the person that is good enough. Through your consistent actions that have been compounding and building towards it, through you overcoming challenges consistently, it becomes real that you are now the person that you always wanted to be. And that's when you know you made an identity change. When you shift your identity, you change your thoughts, habits, and values. These are fundamental changes. And so when you have these thoughts, habits, and values that a fit person has, you're not gonna be that skinny fat guy anymore. So identify the deep-rooted problem, acknowledge it, and your journey towards identity change begins. Now we're going to take actions that solidify this new identity that we're going to create. But first, we need to understand why you're skinny fat in the first place. If you know the real problem, then we know the right solution. Most guys think they're stuck in this skinny fat because of slow metabolism or bad genetics. But the actual reason is real simple, and once you understand this, step 3 makes complete sense. For the longest time, I would blame my bad genetics for why I am skinny fat. In high school, I just saw myself as this weird type. But looking back, my skinny friends did a lot of running, so they burned a lot of calories. They also didn't eat much, so they didn't have a lot of muscle mass. So they had a small frame and barely any fat. My big friends were strong in the gym and they ate a lot too, which then made them had a lot of muscle mass. So they had a big frame but they had fat. But me? I didn't go to the gym, and I like eating McDonald's nuggets. You see where I'm going? Skinny fat doesn't mean that I'm just unlucky. It's a combination of low muscle mass plus higher levels of body fat. You're likely new to resistance training or haven't done it before, so your body hasn't been pushed to build muscle yet. And you also store the surplus of calories as just fat. So you can just look back at your history of physical activity and just see if it tallies. When you understand the real problem, then we know the exact solution to solve it. In this case, what we have to do is lose fat and build muscle. The good news is that for this specific case, we can do that at the same time. As a new lifter who hasn't developed a lot of muscle, your muscles are primed for these newbie gains. So you can do a body recomposition where you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time, unlike many trained lifters. No need for a cut, then a bulk, or a bulk and then a cut. We can just go to directly where we want to be. And the next step is where we're gonna do all of that. So the game plan consists of two aspects. 1. Lose fat. 2. Build muscle. We'll go through the fat loss part first. First of all, you want to be in a calorie deficit. A calorie deficit is a state where your calories out is greater than your calories in. So we can manipulate either variable in this case. So for your diet, you want to be eating such that you are in a calorie deficit. I recommend that you have a deficit of anywhere between 300 to 500 calories. So a 500 calorie deficit will lose about a pound or 0.45 kilos per week. We don't want to have such a huge deficit because we want to have sufficient energy for our workouts. We always feel super motivated when we're going to start a diet, when we're all nice and full after a nice meal. So we think we can eat 100% clean all the time in that moment. But when we're in the trenches and actually doing it, it's a different story. It works for a while, but after that you start to break and all hell breaks loose. So you want to focus on the 80-20 rule for a sustainable diet. So 80% of your diet should consist of low calorie, nutrient dense whole foods. This includes lean proteins such as chicken breast, lean pork, lean beef, fish, etc. These contain less fat and so they will have less calories. You also want to stick to complex carbohydrates. These include potatoes, sweet potatoes, whole grain pasta, whole grain rice, all that sort of thing. But it's also okay to have simple carbohydrates every now and then, such as just simply white rice or white bread. Lots of fruits and vegetables are also very critical. This increases the volume of food that you're eating so that you can feel extremely full without additional calories. Fruits such as apple contain high fiber content, which also contributes to you feeling very full. Try and also have minimal sweet drinks because oftentimes they just contain empty calories that don't really help you in your weight loss journey. Instead, have 2 liters or more of water every single day so that it helps to promote satiety and make you feel full. Anyone that can eat 3 pieces of 4-ounce chicken breast is just an absolute monster. By the second one, I'm about to gag already. I'm dying, dude. But eating 3 pieces of fried chicken is so easy, it just disappears. That's the difference between nutrient-dense whole foods and processed foods. Nutrient-dense whole foods make us so full for the little calories that they have. And so that is why having 80% of nutrient-dense whole foods is so important for keeping us full so that we don't have all these unnecessary cravings. This helps to greatly increase our willpower so you don't have that random urge to go and grab a whole tub of ice cream and eat it. And if you're anything like me, when you're busy, you will go for hours just not eating and want to just focus on your task. Then you realize it's been 6 hours since you just ate something and you're starving, your willpower is just simply breaking. All those cravings are just coming in right now. And so you should space your meals evenly throughout the day so that you don't go hungry for extended periods of time. If you're having 3 meals a day, then it can be about 45 hours between each meal. You could also have smaller meals in between, such as a Greek yogurt bowl with fruit so that you don't feel too hungry. And here's the fun part, the unsung hero of a whole weight loss journey. 20% of your diet can be just anything that you want, but just don't blow it out of proportion. It keeps your motivation high and you don't feel like you're on a diet anymore. That's the secret to long-term success. Your diet can take you so far, but we all know the struggles of reducing the amount of calories we're eating. You start to feel hungry, you feel restricted, so how do we make it all better? That's when the next point comes in. You want to increase your activity levels. Have about 8 to 10,000 steps a day. It's a convenient way to burn more calories while doing everything else in your life. You can go shopping while walking, you can do groceries while walking, you can walk your dog while walking, you can talk to a friend while walking, or you can even doom scroll while walking. No extra time required in the gym. No need for that crazy Stairmaster for 60 minutes every single day. It gives you more leeway with what you eat and also helps you to lose weight. I have a free weight loss guide that goes more in depth on low calorie foods that you can eat to make you feel full, and also diet adherence strategies that you can have so that you can make your weight loss journey easier. You can check it out in the description below if you're interested. Being in a calorie deficit is a necessary state that your body has to be in to lose fat. We don't want to be in too deep of a deficit so that we can have adequate energy for our workouts to build muscle. And working out is extremely important when trying to get rid of skinny fat because you don't want to just end up being skinny again. You want to have muscle for that lean aesthetic physique. So that's what we go through right now. If you were to cook a new dish, you wouldn't just toss all these random ingredients inside and just hope for the best, right? It's gonna taste awful most likely. It's the same thing with muscle. We first need to understand the recipe for building muscle and then apply that recipe. It's a much more efficient way to get your results. So what builds muscle? We need to do resistance training. The key driver of muscle muscle growth is stimulus driven and it is mechanical tension. This is the force experienced by your muscles when they work against resistance. For example, for a bicep curl, your biceps experience this mechanical tension as it's trying to curl the weight up against gravity. So it's not from a calorie surplus, it's from a training stimulus. You need high degrees of mechanical tension for maximum stimulus for muscle growth, and it is achieved by a slow contraction speed. You might think if that was the case, we can just slowly curl up the air and just build muscle, right? But does that take a lot of effort? No, we wouldn't need weights in this case. Let's dive deeper and understand how it really works. Your brain sends signals to recruit motor units to curl, and a motor unit is like a light switch, a motor neuron that is connected to many lights, which are muscle fibers in this case. If curling your arm up is easy, your brain doesn't have to turn on so many light switches in order to do the job. Small amounts of muscle fibers are stimulated from generating the force needed to curl. But if curling your arm up is hard, your brain has to turn on so many light switches in order to do the job. Large amounts of muscle fibers are stimulated from generating this large force needed to curl. So when many of these light switches need to be turned on, that is high levels of motor unit recruitment. We need high degrees of mechanical tension plus high levels of motor unit recruitment to maximize muscle growth. So in simple terms, how do we achieve this in the gym? By training close to failure with 0 to 2 reps in reserve. This is optimal for muscle growth. When you train close to failure, your reps involuntarily start to slow down as you approach failure. So there is high degrees of mechanical tension. You also require high effort, and so there's high levels of motor unit recruitment. This means there's a lot of muscle fibers experiencing high degrees of mechanical tension. That means you're stimulating the most muscle growth possible. With this style of training, we want to ensure that we have adequate rest in between our sets. I recommend anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes for compound exercises and 2 to 3 minutes for isolation exercises. This allows you to perform your next set with your best effort and thus maximize the stimulus for muscle growth. A structured training plan will allow us to distribute our training volume and exercises evenly. This helps to build muscle more effectively. So how do we structure our training to save time while still getting results? It boils down to these 3 key principles. If I told you to do a full leg day with 6 to 8 exercises, would you do it? You probably feel like you're gonna die. But if I told you to split those 6 exercises into 2 sessions with 3 exercises each, does that sound a lot better to you? Does that sound more manageable? You'll feel more fresh for each session and also dread it less. So you won't skip legs. That's what we're going for here. A high frequency means you're training a muscle group 2 to 3 times per week. It is more effective for muscle growth because you have higher quality sets each session. You come into each session more fresh. You always notice that at the tail end of your workouts, those are the exercises that really suffer. You don't have as much energy anymore and you're just trying to get through it and get done with the day. High frequency also maximizes muscle growth as well. Muscles generally take about 24 to 48 hours to recover, so when they're fresh and good to go, you're hitting them again, providing them the stimulus, and so you can maximize the amount of muscle you're growing each week. It also makes it more manageable, so you're more likely to stick to it. Because we're training at a high intensity, we want to train at a low volume. There is an inverse relationship between intensity and volume. If you were to do high volume and high intensity, you're just gonna die. So we need to balance it out in this case. This also helps when you're in a calorie deficit and you have less energy. When you have these high volume workouts and you're already in a calorie deficit, it's just going to be very tiring for you to go for the workouts and also recover from them. Training at a low volume really allows us to save so much time. We can do this by adjusting the number of sets that we're doing. I recommend about 3 to 10 sets per muscle group in a week. So if you're training with a 3 times per week frequency such as full body 3 days a week, then you would just divide it into the 3 days that you're working out. This means for each session, you will roughly have about 1 to 3 sets per muscle group. We can also change the number of exercises that we're doing. I recommend no more than 8 exercises in a given session so that your workouts can be focused and also efficient. But this really depends on how many days you're training per week. If you have a 3-day full body program, then you might find that you have about closer to 10 exercises in a given session, but it really depends on how you're programming your workout. Focus more on compound lifts so that you can have more bang for buck. These train multiple muscle groups at the same time and also avoid redundancy. This means not having multiple exercises that are training the same movement pattern. A simple example is doing an incline dumbbell press and then doing an incline barbell press. This is essentially the same movement pattern. To save time, you want to prioritize machines and dumbbells over barbells. Barbell lifts such as deadlifts take a lot of time to set up. You need to go and grab the bar, then you grab a plate, and then put the plate inside the bar. It takes a lot of time. With a pin load machine, you can just simply move up in weight by just moving the pin while sitting down. Barbell lifts also require extensive warm-ups because they are typically more technical movements as compared to a machine which has a fixed path and doesn't require a lot of stabilization demands. Here are some sample training splits that you can work with. For 3-day, you can just do full body. For 3.5, you can just do full body every other day, such as Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, then next week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Really great. And for 4-day, you can just simply do an upper lower or a combination of upper lower with full body. It's really up to you. There's so many ways to organize your training. The most important thing is that you enjoy the split, so even if it's not as optimal, as long as you enjoy it, then that's really important. Enjoyment is a big factor in exercise adherence. And if you want some free sample 3 to 4 day workouts that you can build off from or just simply follow, you can check out the links in the description. These take you no more than 1 hour per session and still gives you great results. But muscle growth doesn't occur instantly, it actually takes quite a bit of time. We see ourselves in the mirror every single day, so it's really hard to notice with our own eyes. That is why a friend who hasn't seen you for a while can see if you're getting bigger or if you're getting fatter. But we can't take a couple of months for them to find out, right? That will take too long. And so that is why we make use of the weights that we're hitting in the gym to gauge our progress for muscle growth. This is the key term known as progressive overload. Progressive overload is when you're able to do more weight for a given number of reps or more reps for a given weight at a specific intensity, meaning reps in reserve, and for the same technique, meaning your form doesn't break down. Progressive overload is the result of the adaptations that have occurred due to the stimulus that we have provided through resistance training. A bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, and that is why we can measure muscle growth with our ability to progressive overload. Track the weights and reps you're doing for every set for each exercise. Aim to beat them in your next session. It lets us know exactly if we're building muscle or not, if we have adapted from the stimulus from last week. You need to get stronger over time to ensure that you're building muscle. If you're not getting stronger over time, you're not building muscle. Simple as that. But training is not always that smooth sailing, and we might hit a plateau. As mentioned, your ability to progressive overload is strongly tied to the amount of muscle that you're building. If you're not progressing, you're not building muscle. It likely means that you're experiencing fatigue, and so we need to change something. If you see that you have stalled after 3 to 4 weeks, then it's a sign. Look into your training and see what exercises are you stalling. It might just be your chest movements, for example. Reduce the number of sets you're doing, cut out redundant exercises, reduce the intensity you're training to 2 to 3 reps in reserve, or just simply do all of them. This allows you to recover from fatigue and then allow you to progress again. Stimulus and fatigue works hand in hand. Stimulus creates fatigue, and fatigue hinders our ability to create stimulus. If we're not able to recover from this fatigue, we're not able to provide as much stimulus. This means we can't provide the stimulus to build muscle, and thus, we're not going to build muscle. So quick recap, shift who you are so that your actions will follow accordingly. Second, spot the real problem. It's a combination of low muscle mass plus high body fat. It's not bad genetics. And finally, run the 2-pronged game plan. Eat in a smart deficit, walk 8 to 1,000 steps, and train hard to provide maximum stimulus. That's exactly how you replace skinny fat with lean and confident. Remember how overwhelming it felt? I'm stuck with this body, I don't have time, my genetics are bad. Now you got absolute clarity on what to do and why it works. That gap between where you are right now and the physique that you want, it just shrank fast. If you want to remove all the guesswork and have this all dialed in for you, then you can check out my one-on-one online fitness coaching. I'll help you uncover what is the deep-rooted pain that is causing you to struggle in your fitness goals and guide you with weekly calls to take actionable steps to finally achieve your dreams. Link is in the description. And if you want a more in-depth guide on weight loss or cutting your workout time but still building muscle effectively, then you might be interested in these 2 videos right here that will solve your exact problems.